Welcome to a new season of Dumtak, where we bring you behind-the-scenes stories of Arabic music from around the world. You're listening to the English rendition of Dumtak on Loosely Adapted. I'm your host, Rana Daoud. In this series, you'll hear voice actors narrating the stories of our guest musicians.
When people ask us about the difficulties we faced as blind female musicians, I wish they understood. Being blind isn't the problem. That's not what makes it hard. The challenges I faced are the same ones any musician who can see goes through when learning an instrument for the first time. Aching hands, sore lips, a tired body. It's all the same struggles sighted musicians deal with too.
These are artists who navigate life and their craft with various disabilities and impairments, each forging a path to create powerful, moving music. In today's episode, we are joined by the world's first orchestra composed entirely of blind female musicians. The Light and Hope Orchestra, known as Nour Wal Amal in Arabic, is an extraordinary all-women ensemble that has captivated audiences around the world. They perform complex compositions as a full orchestra, all without a single sheet of music. Behind the scenes are stories of determination, women using their craft to push back against the limitations often placed on disabled people. Talented musicians who see music not just as a tool, but as a path. In a world quick to label, the Light and Hope Orchestra lets music speak for itself, living life like a symphony, where every tone tells a story and every note challenges a stereotype. In this episode, we hear from two members of the orchestra, Shahinaz Salah and Maryse Makram. They'll share how they first got into music, what those early days were like, and what rehearsals look like now. They'll also talk about what it feels like to step onto a stage, to travel, to perform, and to stand before audiences that may know nothing about them except that they're blind. Shahinaz, a double bass player, tells us about joining the orchestra as a young girl learning to read and write Braille.
By the end of my first year at primary school, I was already learning Braille. In my second year, we were told we could take extra music lessons at a music institute. That year, we focused on music theory. By the third year, they started assigning instruments to each girl based on her individual attributes and abilities. For example, they gave me the double bass because I have long fingers, which suited the instrument. Each instrument has unique features that make it a better fit for different students. Eventually, they brought in professors from the Conservatoire Music Academy and gradually introduced us to the orchestra. The orchestra was already performing live in concerts. At first, we joined the youth orchestra and only played short compositions.
Maryse Makram, Shahinaz's bandmate, is a philosophy student and plays the bassoon. She began her musical journey later in life. When she enrolled at Light and Hope's Music Institute for blind students, her long-held dream of performing became a reality.
I didn't go to the music institute when I was young. At first, I could see. It wasn't until college that I had to attend a school for blind students. I didn't know anything about the Light and Hope Institution or their orchestra. I'd never even heard of it. When I started at school, I found out there was a music department, a music institute. As a kid, I always wanted to learn to play music. I dreamed of learning the piano, but never had the chance. So, when I discovered the music school existed, it was great. I was so happy and I signed up.
Maryse began playing the bassoon, an instrument that is not very common in Egypt. After 9 years of practice, she joined the orchestra and started performing at concerts in Egypt and around the world.
The bassoon isn't very well known in Egypt. It's a woodwind instrument, mostly used in orchestras, but you'll also hear it in cartoons like Tom and Jerry or in old Arabic films. They actually feature quite a bit of bassoon music. At first, I had no idea what it was. I was totally taken aback when I was told about it. I was like, what's that? What do you want me to do with it? But then I found out more about it, and that's where it all started. Professor Tamer taught me how to play. He was the one who suggested I learn. He looked at me, my fingers, my lips, my teeth, all the things that matter when you're playing a wind or string instrument. He thought I was well suited for a wind instrument, so I gave it a try. Now I've been playing the bassoon for 9 years. With time and practice, I started performing with the orchestra here in Egypt and eventually traveled and performed at concerts abroad.
The Light and Hope Orchestra was founded in 1954 by Professor Istiqlal Radi. After earning a doctorate in musicology in England, she returned to Egypt and began working with Professor Samha Al-Khouli, a leading Egyptian music historian at the time. The two women were united by a shared belief that blind women in Egypt had so much to offer the world. What began as a small 15-member ensemble has since grown into 3 orchestras, each made up of 20 to 40 musicians.
In the beginning, the idea was that girls who weren't doing well in school would have somewhere to go, a place to learn something different, a space where they could study in a different way. At the same time, it was meant for us too, a special educational needs department where we could learn using our hands and focus on job skills instead of traditional ways of studying. That's when the founders thought, if we're capable of learning all these things, why not learn music?
The Institute's vision went beyond providing a strong educational foundation. It set out to build a comprehensive academic program in professional music, one that would lead to an accredited degree and open the door to university studies, whether in musicology or another field.
They started planning and figuring out what we needed. The program started to take on a more academic focus. It wasn't just about forming an orchestra of blind students who could play instruments. It became more than that. It was about giving us years of solid training so we could become professionals, so that our orchestra could perform at a professional level. They brought in professors from the conservatoire and started working on how to adapt solfège, that's music theory, into Braille to make it easier for us to learn. After we learned how to read and write music notation, they started converting any sheet music we needed into Braille in the library. That made things so much easier. We didn't have to memorize everything anymore. And from there, the idea kept growing, and the Music Institute was established.
But for the girls following the regular school program, they had to do both. Attend regular classes during the day, then go to the Music Institute in the afternoons. At the Institute, they followed the same academic path as students in mainstream schools, continuing through primary and secondary education and college. In the 3rd year of college, they'd receive a music certificate to mark the completion of their musical training.
The Music Institute wasn't just about preparing students to perform in the orchestra. It focused on developing supportive tools, like Braille, to meet the students' needs.
The idea is that blind girls are capable. I mean, it was a challenge, but they're capable of many things. The question was, why aren't they playing music? And the answer was that they will, if it's made available to them. If we provide the tools they need, they'll play. And that's what actually happened. You can amaze the world simply by being different. And that's exactly what we do. We're different. Sure, there are things we don't have, but that's what sets us apart. People are always surprised by us. After concerts, they tell us how incredible it is that we can play music without being able to see. For them, it's hard to imagine. And since we're an orchestra, it's even harder for people to understand how we can walk on stage together and perform without a conductor guiding us. But that's exactly what we work on during rehearsals, so that when we step onto that stage, we're ready to show the world what we can do.
This enthusiastic applause isn't for a famous star or band. It's for the dazzling performance of an orchestra composed of entirely of blind girls. 47 musicians, each with an academic qualification and at a different stage of her education.
Unlike traditional orchestras, the Light and Hope Orchestra doesn't rely on a conductor's cues during performances. Instead, they depend on intensive rehearsals where the conductor communicates everything verbally, from tempo and dynamics to movement across each section. The musicians memorize all of these instructions in advance. During the concert, the conductor's role is simply to set the initial rhythm. From that point on, the musicians lead the performance themselves, playing with remarkable precision thanks to their preparation.
Basically, the professor decides which music composition we'll play. Once that's settled, he brings the cited sheet music. Then a specialist from the conservatoire converts it into Braille. From there, we each go off to memorize it on our own and practice individually. During school hours, we would have designated study times to go over the composition. Each of us practices separately on our own instrument. Then the conductor begins rehearsing with us in 2-hour sessions. He listens carefully to see how well each girl has memorized her part. Bit by bit, he starts putting the sections together until we've worked through the entire composition. That's how we continue, step by step, until we're ready to perform in concert. Once we've practiced both individually and with the professor, and he says, "Tamam, it's good to go," we start performing the composition at concerts. The professor joins us on stage. He begins snapping his fingers, like this. That's how he gives us the rhythm. We stay completely focused so we know the exact time signature for each segment, whether it's 1-2, or 1-2-3, or 1-2-3-4. We're trained to follow those subtle snaps of his fingers.
The orchestra consists of 3 ensembles grouped into different levels. They use mostly classical orchestral instruments, from string instruments like the violin, viola, and cello, to wind instruments like the flute, oboe, clarinet, bassoon, and trumpet, as well as percussion. Each musician is trained on a specific instrument from an early age and is gradually integrated into the orchestra as they progress.
I started out at a young age. I gained experience from studying at the institute. They taught us music theory early on, like solfège. It all began when the professor introduced a yearly program that worked just like a regular school curriculum, with tests for everything. We'd practice on our own instruments, and the professor would send progress reports to the institute's management team. From there, they'd decide, for example, that Shahinaz was really starting to progress, so they'd place her in the youth orchestra, which is for total beginners. Depending on how we progressed with our instruments and the standard we reached, we'd move through all the levels, starting from the youth orchestra. If I was good enough, I'd join. Then onto the chamber orchestra. If I was good enough, I'd join.
There was a big jump. We were no longer playing short, easy segments. Quite the opposite. We started playing really hard compositions. The kind that professional orchestras perform or that musicians much older than us play. To begin with, we all felt that it was still too early for us to play these pieces. We were nervous every time we started learning something new, thinking, what is this? Are we sure we can do this? But after practicing and rehearsing, and with the support and encouragement of the conductor, we were able to do it.
The orchestra began by performing mostly Western classical music, but over time, their vision grew. They started playing works by legendary Arab musicians, icons beloved across the region, like Kulthum, Abdul Wahab, and Fairuz. As their repertoire expanded, so did their reach. The orchestra began touring beyond Egypt, performing across the globe, country after country, showing audiences they could master not only classical pieces, but also the rich, iconic sounds of their own musical heritage. For them, diversity isn't an added bonus, it's at the heart of what they do. The Light and Hope Orchestra has now performed in more than 32 countries, and with every concert, they send a clear message. Music isn't bound to one language. We can perform in your languages and play it our own way.
Our orchestra is founded on Western classical music, but sometimes the professor will book us to play in a particular place or let us know that we've had a request from a Sharqi program that wants us to perform music from our region. Sure, we can play a concert for a Western audience or an Eastern audience, but the foundation will always be classical. The professor introduces an element of Eastern music to a composition, making the classical foundations come through beautifully. Then we orchestrate a program to cater to Egyptian tastes, so that they know we can overcome any obstacles that come our way. Thank God. Disabilities like visual impairments are not obstacles. I mean, they don't prevent us from doing anything. We're just like anyone else. Anything can be difficult at the beginning. But with practice and determination, we can achieve anything. As long as you persevere, you can reach whatever goal you set. And once you start to enjoy it, you'll persevere even more and succeed even more.
The orchestra's core message stems from its name, Nour Wal Amal, light and hope. It's not just a name, but an expression of their collective spirit, light that opens up horizons, and hope that proves anything is possible. But success alone isn't enough. Orchestra hopes for more opportunities to perform, especially within Egypt. Ironically, they've become more well-known abroad than they are at home.
Playing in an orchestra takes skill, talent, and dedication. But for this Egyptian ensemble, the musicians face another challenge. All of them are blind. These women perform with the Nour Wal Amal Association for the Blind.
Look, the point is, or what we really want people to take away from all this is right there in our name, the Orchestra of Light and Hope. It's not only a name. We don't want people to say it without really thinking about what it means. We truly feel that we want to give people the energy of light and the energy of hope. And say nothing is impossible. No matter how many problems or difficulties you face in life, you can still achieve things. We believe we're a great example of that. We're blind girls, but we can perform anything. We'll light up the stage and give you hope. We really do believe it's all encompassed in our name.
Thanks to their ongoing performances both in Egypt and globally, the orchestra has seen a noticeable change in how society views blind musicians. Shahinaz believes that their work with the orchestra spares them from being viewed with pity, both by others and by themselves.
Music has brought out the best in us. It's made us more self-reliant, thanks to God and to the management of the Institute as well. They didn't treat us like we were blind. Saying things like, "Oh, poor thing," and treating us strangely or patronizing us and things like that. It wasn't like that here. They treated us like mothers would. Depend on yourself. If you fall, get up and try again. Work on yourself. Succeed.
The silent amazement that fills the halls during the orchestra's performances reflects their hard work, prompting audiences to rethink the very concept of disability. Over time, the orchestra's radiant artistry has sparked a shift, not only in each musician's relationship with herself and the world around her, but also in how society perceives them.
Then they started to come up to us after the performance and tell us, "No, we are the ones who will learn from you. You inspire us. You give us so much energy." There are people who have no issues with their eyes, arms, legs, or anything in life, yet they haven't achieved what we've achieved. I have noticed that each time we explain things to people or whenever we perform or travel for concerts, whether inside or outside of Egypt, something changes. Society has begun to view blind people and those with disabilities more broadly in a different light. People have started to recognize No, these people, they're really dedicated. They can do anything, just like anyone else. That in itself is a powerful testament to the changes we're seeing in society.
Music isn't just an artistic practice for these musicians. It marks a turning point in their lives. For Maryse, losing her sight was a difficult transition, but music changed the course of her life. It became her foundation, her way of getting back on her feet amidst painful changes. For Shahinaz, music didn't just spark her creativity, it touched something deeper. Music shaped them both. It taught them self-reliance. It gave them confidence.
When I leave the house, I say to my family, I'm off to work now. And that in itself makes me feel like a normal person. Just like my brothers and sisters, like my mom and dad. They all go to work, and I do too. That's something that matters to me. And to all of us. The feeling we're doing something meaningful, that we are contributing to something valuable, that we're capable of succeeding in
years. Maryse, Shahinaz, and the rest of musicians aren't asking for admiration or compliments. They want to be heard, not as inspirational icons, but as professional musicians who work hard, train hard, and stand on world stages with their heads held high. And if this episode leaves you with anything, let it be more than just hope. Let it be an open invitation to anyone facing a closed door, to anyone who feels that being different is a burden, to anyone who feels alone. Music and art speak to those with stories to share. It is through those creative connections that anyone can become a beacon of light and hope.
I mean, I truly love connecting with anyone who feels different in any way. For example, someone who's sitting around, feeling down, unsure of what to do with their life. And I'm not just saying this for the sake of it. No, I've been there. I faced problems too, and I dealt with them. Anyone can. And it's not just about physical challenges. It applies to any kind of struggle. There's nothing that can't be faced, and no situation that can't change. What matters most is that we stay motivated, believe in ourselves, and always trust that God has something good in store for us, if we're open to looking for it.
What I can say is that anyone who wants to learn something should work hard to achieve it, in whatever way they can. If you want to do it, don't trip over the words, but I don't know how, or I can't do it. Words can, in themselves, be motivating or demotivating. People might have so much inside them that they don't even realize. You could start doing something and surprise yourself with what you're capable of. Success isn't just a word. It's about what you put into it and what you have to give. It's about not stopping at one closed door, but knocking on several, so you can reach a place you want to be.
This episode was co-produced by Sowt and Komet Kashakeel, with voice actor Laila Alj narrating Maryse and voice actor Lara Sawalha narrating Shahinaz. The episode was scripted by Rabab Al-Rzini and produced and edited in Arabic and reviewed in English by Jana Qazzaz. English translation and production is by Lauren Pepperell and Mahmoud El Saghir. Sound by Ahmad, Mitry, Mohamad, Khreizat, and Mahmoud El Saghir. Managing producer, Tala Halawa. Access coordinator, Yaz Brien. Access consultant, Lightfoot. Our theme music was created by Ameer Moussa, and I'm your host, Rana Daoud. We look forward to hearing your thoughts on this episode on Radio Thamania, and we'd love your ratings on Apple Podcasts and Castbox. You can also connect with us through our socials at Sowt Podcasts. And don't forget to subscribe to Dumtak wherever you get your podcasts. This season was funded by the British Council's International Collaboration Grant. Dumtak is produced by Sowt.